Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Tom and Scott from BadCuzDad. We are back with another live show. Right now, the working title is Amorphous Jedi live show. Um, I don't know. Scott says it's a dad bod joke, but I'm still thinking it's like a Grey Jedi
I don't
reference or
know, man.
something.
Starting to lose the dad bod a little bit. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's gonna have to be an
But
aesthetic Jedi pretty soon.
so yeah, man, this is episode number 2. Uh, I know we went live last week, had some technical difficulties. Hopefully, get all of that sorted out. But man, I'm excited today. We got some good topics we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bad Batch episode 3 was pretty incredible. So we're going to get into that. Scott hit me on text this week. I don't remember if it was text, maybe it was Discord, with this Ahsoka and Luke speculation kind of theory. And so,
Did.
man, I definitely thought we should talk about that in the show because it's good stuff. Maybe we're going to do another whole video on it too on the channel. And then we'll talk about, we have a little bit to say about Rogue One, kind of in this era of Andor. Rogue One is like super relevant, right? Because of what Andor is doing, I think.
Well, I think that's the tone the shows are starting to take.
Yeah.
They've caught on that people like that, and now we're starting to see more tie-ins with the other content, like Bad Batch too.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get into that a little bit, and also just before we get going, I wanted to mention our other channel, BadCuzDad. It's kind of like our gaming channel. We talk about all types of games there. I'm heavy into MMOs. I actually play the Star Wars MMO, Star Wars: The Old Republic, quite a bit. It's probably my main game right now. And Scott is super into single player. I know he's looking forward to like Jedi Survivor and some other stuff coming up. So yeah, check out our other channel if you guys are interested in gaming and you're into
Hogwarts.
that. Yeah, Hogwarts Legacy is coming up. Lots of cool games that we're excited about. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is just, Scott, man, what have you been up to this week? Obviously, I know you watched Bad Batch because you did a breakdown video on it. But what else have you been up to?
Oh man, the weeks just fly by, dude. I don't know. It's like I felt like we were just doing this yesterday, to be honest. But as far as gaming, I haven't been playing anything, dude. I just am so tired at night. So really, I've just been trying to keep up with the shows, and the whole reason we're talking about Rogue One today is because I just watched that with my kids, and it was just awesome again, blown away by it. So
That's so cool. And obviously, that's really cool because you have daughters, right? And
yeah,
Jen Erso is like such a cool
until
female
March,
character.
until March, yeah.
There you go. There you go. But
But
yeah,
yeah,
that's
Jyn Erso was awesome, great character.
she's obviously a female character who is incredibly strong, done really well. So yeah, that's Rogue One's one of my favorites. So that's pretty cool. I have kind of like you, it's been hit or miss, soccer practices every night with kiddos. So don't always get as much game time or showtime in. But obviously I watched the Bad Batch. I played a lot of Star Wars: The Old Republic this week, or some of it. Was up late nights doing graphics for the podcast other nights.
Which looked great. It really does.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm happy the way it's turning out. Me and my wife, we've been trying to watch Jack Ryan. New season is out, and so I don't know if you've watched that. So
Is that with Jim?
yeah, totally, dude.
It is,
Anything
okay.
Jim's in, I gotta watch. Gotta watch it. Even though he's doing a serious character, I keep waiting for him to like pull a stupid face. But
face to the camera, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. But before we get going on Bad Batch, which I'm really excited about, I wanted to show everyone like a little 30-second clip of the breakdown videos that we've been doing, especially you, because you're doing the voiceover, you're writing the scripts, kind of really doing a lot of the heavy lifting on it, and you've just been crushing it. So I want to show, in case people are just know us from the live streams or just see a live stream, that we're putting out breakdown videos for all the Bad Batch episodes and probably all content going forward. So yeah, here we go, guys. Let's take a quick peek.
Hello, everyone. Scott here from BadCuzDad, and welcome back to another breakdown of the Bad Batch. Today we're covering Season 2, Episode 3, The Solitary Clone. And man, what a great episode. Let's get started. In the first scene, we open up to a landscape on the planet of Desix, one of the few remaining separatist independent planets. A lone Imperial shuttle comes flying down to the surface carrying Governor Groton and his new shiny squad of first iteration stormtroopers. This is the first time we've seen stormtroopers show up since the establishment of the Galactic Empire, and this is a subtle symbolic representation of the evolution that's happening. The clones are being phased out, and the new recruits are quickly replacing them.
And there it is, guys. Like I said, man, Scott's absolutely killing it.
What a sexy voice.
No, dude, I love the breakdowns that we're doing. You know,
They're fun to do.
They are.
I really do like it. It lets me kind of marinate on the episode and just sit with it and see things I didn't see the first go. It makes me closer to the material, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of it.
Well, speaking of that, what were your kind of first impressions overall? Actually, let me go first. I'll go first. I'll hit you with it.
Okay.
My first impressions of episode 3 was they just raised the bar way up there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah.
This was obviously the best one yet. I know there's only been 3, but man, what incredible storytelling. Kind of the big thing that stuck out to me was the direction of it. Like whoever directed this episode, because the shots were so cinematic. I'm thinking back to some of the shots of like Rampart with, you know, the skyline in the background and Crosshair like in the office, like just very cinematic and pulling you into the episode. Obviously tons of emotion, you know, from the characters in this one.
Yeah.
And so I was like kind of blown away. I was like, I put, you know, I saw that in the title. I was like, is this the animated version of Andor? Because I felt that level of emotion kind of, you know, it's not, there's some action in this one, but I don't know. I thought it was pretty awesome. What were you thinking?
For me, it's the storytelling. Like, for whatever reason, it just went from, there were some dark parts in the animated shows of all of them, obviously, but I think that overall darker tone that Andor has is kind of just seeping into the rest of the content that's coming out. And maybe it's because of where we're at in the story. Like this is such a pivotal time, and like Obi-Wan said, it was before the dark times. Like this is a very dark time in the Star Wars timeline. But yeah, to kind of echo what you said, it's cinematic. It pulls you in. It just no pun. It just pulls you in, and the story is being laid out on so many more levels than we've kind of just assumed are happening in the background when we watch the original films, the prequels, whatever. Even the Clone Wars, the last 2 seasons of the Clone Wars really added so much like depth to the prequels, especially episode 3. So we're kind of filling in those gaps that we had in the story that we always thought about and like to talk about as fans, but now we're actually seeing it happen. And I think that's why it's really striking a deep nerve with us now, because we're just like, wow, everything we thought of is panning out the way we imagined. So
yeah, I've been really impressed so far with the 3 episodes, because I feel like they're hitting a good mix of like substance mixed with spectacle, right? Like obviously the first 2 episodes we had a little more action, you know, there's a lot of moving parts going on. There was some emotion, you know, you had like the Omega story where she's feeling bad, you know, that maybe she's affecting the crew in some way, you know, her wanting to gather as much resources for him as possible. But this one, it just went another step. And so I'm glad they're mixing the 2. You know, I know in recent times, something like Obi-Wan, which was like really heavy on the spectacle, right? You had Vader versus Obi-Wan, and it's like this huge production. And then you have Andor, which is just super emotional, super character driven. So, I mean, I was never a cartoon guy before like Clone Wars, but I feel like this, like puts me in the same place as watching a live action show almost. So
It does.
yeah.
It's really good at making you kind of empathize with the content going on, and I think that's what Star Wars did for many of us in the beginning, is we just felt such a, I don't know, like a connection to the characters. We had sympathy and empathy, and we could kind of feel what they were going through. And I always felt. So here's my thing on the cartoons. Like, would I rather have a live show? Absolutely. I felt the Clone Wars as a cartoon was kind of at first, like, I'm gonna watch this because it's the only Star Wars content I have available right now. But over time, as it got more mature, as the story was more fleshed out, like, it just became a show that you didn't even realize you were watching a cartoon anymore. The story was just that good.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, speaking of pulling us in, let's just visit, I guess, a character that we haven't seen in a while, right? So in this episode, they bring back Cody, of course, and it was kind of cool the way they introduced it, right? Crosshair, is going into Rampart's office, and he thinks he's getting a new mission, right? And he's going to lead a squad, kind of a thing. And then he's like, "Oh, no, no, no! You've been assigned to, clone trooper such and such." And he's like, Cody. And so I thought that was kind of a cool deal. And Cody obviously said that he requested Crosshair. So I'm kind of curious. Do you have any thoughts on why he did it? I'm not sure if Cody is trying to find out if Crosshair, maybe he's trying to find an ally. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, amongst all the clones, that maybe since he's a part of, Clone Force 99, that maybe he doesn't have an inhibitor chip, or maybe he, is acting on his own or has other options. I don't know. Do you think there was a deeper meaning for Cody, or is that just a convenient way to introduce him back into the mix?
I think it's a yes and no answer to your question. Yeah, they brought him back because he was an
Awesome.
important part of the Clone Wars. Yeah, he was Obi-Wan's best friend, aside from
Yeah.
Anakin, probably. And we never got a wrap up to what happened to him and his story. So I think it was a nice segue to kind of bring him back in. Let's see what he's been up to, and let's throw another great character in here for more development, essentially. Who better to interact with the new clones, the Bad Batch, than older clones that really were kind of in the thick of it the whole time.
Yeah, because they've kind of introduced Rex back, right? Like they've had interaction with Rex, and so
Right.
this is cool to see Cody. Off the bat, though, the first meeting he has with Crosshair, he kind of questions him about Order 66, or he says some of the clones are starting to have, I don't know if he said second thought or
Like
just
doubts.
question,
They're
doubts
kind of
about what
questioning
happened.
what they're doing, their actions.
Yeah, and so I think that goes back to the question we asked last week: was the inhibitor chip really just there to focus on taking out the Jedi? It didn't make them like robots, where they obey any order that the Empire gives them. Or I noticed, and I don't know if this is related, if he had this before, I noticed he had like a huge scar on the side of his head. I'm wondering, like,
Yeah.
did Cody remove his inhibitor chip, or is that just a
Sure.
war wound or something?
I honestly can't remember if he had that scar prior to him showing up here again.
Okay.
I don't recall. It is possible though that he took it
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
It's like a little moon-looking scar. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's
yeah,
a
it is
tattoo or not.
interesting.
No, it's
Yeah,
a
that's
scar.
good timing. It's up there on the screen.
Yeah. That was
Yeah, I
not
don't know if it
planned.
looks the same.
That was awesome though.
So yeah, I'm curious to hear more about that. Like, is this a result of him removing the chip, or just like a Captain Wilco thing, from the last episodes where clones are just maybe waking up to what's happening?
Well, the thing is, the inhibitor chips were for Jedi. That's what they were meant for. That was the clone's sole purpose, was to eradicate the Jedi. I think I mentioned this last time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
when it comes to the Jedi, they may have different feelings like they may be against what they're doing emotionally, but they can't fight it because of the chip. But the chip doesn't, it's not applicable to other orders as far as I'm aware. Like they're still capable of making their own decisions and acting in the best way possible. So I don't know for sure though. Let's not
Yeah,
hold me
yeah.
through to that just yet.
And he talks a little bit about that later on. We'll probably get into it about clones, having a almost like a free will to an extent, maybe
Yeah.
except for the Order 66. So, but kind of the first big moment that was like the first breadcrumb, right? His conversation with Crosshair. But then they get to Desix, right? And they're trying to, you know, go through their mission, and they're making their way through the city trying to infiltrate. And the mom and the daughter pop out, right, of the doorway, and they look very scared, obviously. And Cody is like, "Hey, you know, you don't need to be worried. We are here to help. Don't be scared."
Right.
And the mom was like, "No, you're not. Like,
Yeah.
you're not here to help me. Like, are you
Yeah.
serious?" Kind of a thing. And so that was like a big moment. I think the first time maybe Cody's like was like, am I actually here to help? Am I
Yeah.
doing the right thing? I don't know. I thought that was a really powerful scene.
I think the clones are essentially waking up to what's actually happening. They've always just been, there's that adage that they always say, good soldiers follow orders. But they're reaching a point where they're starting to actually see stuff go down that is not sitting well with them. And that is what's creating the great character development. But they're not just mindless soldiers that follow orders. They actually are thinking, self-reflecting beings, and that's, I think, the overall message they were trying to get to the fans this episode.
Yeah, and kind of the next step for Cody is when they get up to the tower, and what's the character's name again? Remind me, the leader on Desix.
Tawny
Tawny.
Ames.
Yeah, Tawny
Yeah.
Ames. So she has the new governor, and Cody and is trying to negotiate basically, and she kind of almost talks him down and is like, "Hey, we want peace. We don't want another war." And he agrees, and he talks her through that. And you see him like changing on the spot, like. But before that,
Yeah.
he kind of goes through this monologue of, that they always say, "Hey, the clones provide peace and order throughout the Empire to create a safer." And it sounds like he's reading like a script. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like a rehearsed monologue, like very like a robot. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so it's almost like he's fighting the two. He's like, am I this person that just follows orders, and am I like a droid for this army that we've been fighting that just does what they're told, or do I have my own
Yeah.
thoughts about? But he makes the choice for peace. Obviously, it doesn't turn out well for Tawny Ames, but I just thought it was a unique juxtaposition because he's, again, telling Crosshair at the end, like, "Hey, we're different from droids because we have our own free will and we can make decisions." Although he sounds very robotic leading up to that point.
I think what's cool is Star Wars has always been about that very black and white symbolism throughout it. There's always like the polar opposite of the character. There's always like I mean, they follow the light side and the dark side. And you have the opposite of Luke being the pure antithesis to somebody like Vader or Palpatine. So I think in this scene, like we're seeing it in real time. Cody's realizing that there's a lot more to this, and he's starting to kind of come over to this newfound philosophy, whereas Crosshair is metaphorically but also in the flesh the very opposite of him. Like here's Cody realizing it, and here's Crosshair just following the order, and we
Right.
see it in real time. And this whole episode is really about the evolution of Cody. Like Crosshair is still in the game where he thinks he needs to be. Cody is like, I'm different, and by the time we get to the ending scene, that's where he's finally able to kind of actually articulate that to Crosshair.
And this is something I didn't put in our notes, but that just hit me. I think Cody might be the most instrumental piece in Crosshair making a change, because if you think about Cody
Speculation. I think
from
so.
the past, right? Like Cody and Obi-Wan's relationship, for example. Obi-Wan was like the rule follower Jedi, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's why him and Cody got along so well, because Cody and him were like of the same mind, you know, they had the
Mm-hmm.
same thoughts and they were very similar. And so I think for Crosshair to see the rule follower clone, right? The clone that does everything by the book, now questioning things, because up to this point Crosshair has been that way. He's like, "Hey, I'm a soldier for the Empire. Like, this is just what I do. I follow orders." And maybe
Right.
to see Cody questioning things, I think is going to have a big impact on Crosshair. Or at least I hope. We'll have to see how it goes
No, I think
in
that's
the
a safe
future.
bet. It's definitely a good assumption.
Yeah, and again, I just want to highlight just the way they shot Cody in this episode. Just the quiet moments, you just see him in contemplation, thinking to
Yeah.
himself. The music would hit, and it just really got that point across. And I just thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, it's adding a great layer, and and I think that's what the early Clone Wars or the cartoons were missing is those kind of more mature moments that
Mm,
bring out emotions with the viewer.
right. I don't know, man. Anything else on Cody? I just thought Cody was incredible this episode. I'm really glad they brought him back.
Yeah, well done. Shout
Um,
out to D. Bradley Baker. Just, I mean, the guy's bringing life to almost every character here on the screen. Like it's the same guy playing the clones, and
Wonder if he gets paid for every character he does, or
he
if he just get
should.
like a flat fee or something.
I mean, yeah, I saw something on Reddit. It was like D. Bradley Baker, and I think the same guy who voiced Grievous is the
Uh-huh.
same guy who voiced the battle droids and a few other characters. And somebody put their screens up and was like, "Man, Clone Wars is legit these two guys fighting each other the whole time."
That's hilarious.
It's true. Like these two guys
Yeah.
are bringing so much life to so many characters and essentially telling a story on their own. It's pretty amazing what he's doing.
Yeah. So let's move on to Crosshair. Obviously, this was like an interesting episode. It was really just Crosshair and Cody like the whole time.
Hmm.
So kind of a different direction than normal because you have a big cast, you know, with
Yeah.
Clone Force 99. So I don't know. It was pretty cool, but they kind of open on Crosshair. You know, he's waking up in his barracks. He's, you know, very isolated. They show him, you know, alone in his thoughts. It shows him going to the breakfast room or the cafeteria, and he's shunned by the other clones. So you get
Yeah.
a sense of someone who is so ingrained in his squad, who's now totally solitary, like separated. And I wonder if that's affecting him or not, you know, in any of this.
I think so.
But
I think
yeah,
isolation will do a lot to somebody to kind of have them at least self-reflect on what's happening. And I think he's going through his own transition the same way that the other clones are. It's just a lot slower, and I think it's from kind of a more self-serving perspective, whereas the others are
mm,
really coming to this more humanistic outlook, whereas Crosshair realized that it's affecting him on some individual level, and perhaps we'll see a really great redemption arc going forward.
yeah, I think you're right that. I mean, do you want Crosshair to join the Clone Force out of a altruistic reason? Of course,
Hmm.
but I think maybe they made as you're kind of seeing on screen right now, this is a great scene where it kind of showed Crosshair and Cody seeing the new stormtroopers being introduced. And I think
Yeah,
before Crosshair
that
maybe
was a
thinks,
great scene.
yeah, I think
Wow.
Crosshair thinks before, I'm safe. Like, I'm one of the elite soldiers. I'm always going to be a soldier for
Hmm.
the Empire, right? But as they see these new stormtroopers being introduced, I think that Crosshair is getting the sense that, hey, I maybe I'm not as secure here in this position as I thought I was,
Yeah.
you know, or maybe they don't care about me. Like, you know, Rampart, he makes the big deal when Crosshair's in his office, like, how many, you
Hmm.
know, how long were you on that platform, you know, on Camino
Yeah.
before you came back? And he's like, what, 32 rotations or something?
Yep.
He's like, oh, I can't believe you even came back, kind of a
It's
thing.
almost as if he's trying to just taunt him to do something so he has a reason to get rid of him. Like, that's the way I kind of look at it. Like, just do something.
Yeah.
We don't need you anymore. We'll use you for your skills as we need, but mess up once and you're done.
Well, their relationship is obviously escalating, right? I mean, Rampart is taking every opportunity to taunt or demean Crosshair or the other clones. Like, the one thing that stood out to me is, he never refers to a clone by their chosen name. He always uses their number, and like when he said,
It's to belittle them, make sure they know their place, that they're no more than just a useful tool in the wheel, a cog in the wheel, as they say.
100%. Yeah, like when Crosshair goes in the second time to get his new assignment, he's like, hey, am I going to Commander Cody or what happened? And he's like, who is Cody? And he's like, oh, you mean clone?
Yeah.
And calls out his number, just kind of to reinforce, like, I don't view you guys like that. You know what I mean? Like, you're just
expendable.
Exactly. You're just a soldier. You're just something to use.
Right.
So yes, their relationship, and interaction will come to a climax, I'm sure, at some point, and I'm really interested to see what happens. And maybe as more people find out about Wilco as well, if they do,
Yeah.
maybe we'll find out more.
What just a phenomenal slow burn. Like, this
Yeah.
has Andor buildup written all over it, and I love it.
Yeah. But kind of the other cool thing was obviously a lot of Crosshair and Cody's interactions, right? It's almost like they're playing a chess match against each other, just to see where the other is at, right? Because their first conversation even, like I said, Cody is saying, like, some of the clones are starting to question Order 66, and before Crosshair answers, he kind of takes a long pause, and he's like, well, then they're he calls people, then they're traitors. You know what I
Right.
mean? If they sympathize with the Jedi, kind of a thing. But he doesn't say it with tons of conviction, and he waits. I think maybe he's like testing Cody, like, where are you at, Cody? What do you think? And then of course Cody comes back with, well, good soldiers follow orders. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he doesn't sound like he means it at all. He's just like, oh, this is what we say. So I thought that was a cool dynamic where neither of them are saying exactly what they think, but
They both have
they're
opinions, but they're not going to
Yes.
say it yet.
Yeah, 100%. And
Kind of
so
feeling each other out there, like, where are you in this?
yeah, and then at the end, I think it was interesting. I think we wanted Crosshair to make more leaps this episode, but like you said, there's a lot of episodes to go. It's a slow burn, but he obviously executes Tawny Ames at the end.
Right.
And I thought that was a great scene. And then Cody's like, man, I thought I was maybe getting through to this guy, but maybe I'm not. And so you mentioned something just a few minutes ago that really was interesting to me about what will Crosshair's, or if he will have one, what will his redemption arc look like?
Yeah.
Because I think we both want him, or I would like to. I think it'd be cool if he joins back up, to Clone Force 99. I have two theories. I'll run by you, and I'll let me know which one you think is more likely. So my first theory is that he's playing kind of like a saboteur role. Like, he is almost like a double agent. Like, he has, in the end, he's going to sabotage the Empire, and he's consciously thinking that. And so he's having to maintain his cover in a sense, like by executing Tawny Ames or doing these things to continue to have the trust of the Empire. And so that's going to kind of be his redemption as he sabotages the Empire from within. That's one thing that's kind of a cool angle too. In Star Wars: The Old Republic, they kind of have that, which is a great Star Wars MMO where you can play this kind of character where you play a saboteur, and so that's what made me thought of this. So that's one option. The other one, which obviously Star Wars is known for, is self-sacrifice. So I know last week we talked about maybe Wrecker having a story arc of self-sacrifice to kind of elevate his character, which I feels like it's kind of fallen to the wayside a little bit. It was more of like comic relief. is that actually going to be what Crosshair does? Like make the ultimate sacrifice to then show his brothers that, I am with you, but this is the only way I can do it. I'm not going to be able to come back. I have to
I'm
do
calling it
something.
right now. Wrecker and Crosshair versus Vader without lightsaber.
Oh yeah, you're like, for real? You think that's going to happen? And then
Yep.
Vader just like
I think
destroys
Vader's gonna
him.
just like he's gonna get punched by Wrecker a few times and then just like crush him. Yeah, I
He's
wouldn't be
got,
surprised if something crazy like that happened or against Inquisitors or something. Because
yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think a redemption arc is in play, and I think that we're probably gonna lose Crosshair and Wrecker.
You think
That's
both?
just my gut. Yep.
Ooh.
And I think
So
it's
you,
going to be a big self-sacrifice. Like I like your idea of the saboteur, but I think
mhm,
for Crosshair, he's still loyal to the Empire, and it's going to be kind of a last-minute change, like a Vader turning on Palpatine, like a
right,
last, like
right.
wow, he's right. This is messed up, and I'm gonna just take myself out with it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. What would the show look like without those two characters? Do you think it's like a thing where season 2 would be the last season and they just
I
go
don't
if
I don't think Bad Batch is going to go on for many seasons.
okay.
I have a feeling, again, speculation, but I'm just looking at all the pieces on the moving or on the chessboard here of what's going on. I think you're going to see a huge shift to purely live action soon. I
Okay.
think the cartoons were all that was feasible when they first started, and it's kind of been like a minor staple to it. But I think the live shows are obviously better received by most of the fan base, especially the older fans. So I think they're going to try and wrap some of these stories up and eventually get to a really like a main timeline of where the story is, where it's going, or if we see different points in that timeline. Like I don't know, but I have a feeling that they're going to kind of clean house a little bit and then bring the main characters like Hunter, probably Omega, and bring her to a live action.
So okay, so that was gonna ask then. So the end game of Bad Batch is you think like a Hunter, Tech, Echo, Omega joining the rebellion, basically,
Something
kind
like
of
that. Yeah. I
in the end.
honestly I would not be surprised if they killed off more than Wrecker or Crosshair. I really wouldn't. I if I had to bet, I would say they're only going to keep Hunter and Omega,
So they go like full Rogue One almost, and just like
which is why Rogue One was a damn good movie because they
the
weren't
self-sacrifice.
willing to
Yeah,
show the kind of sacrifices. I mean, we lost every character in that movie. Like
yeah, yeah,
that doesn't happen hardly ever.
yeah. No, it stays with you in the same vein of Andor. Real sacrifice happening. Rogue One and Andor just being such good together. But yes, that's why I think why I put in the title Bad Batch is the potential to be the cartoon version of Andor, the animated version.
Absolutely. Because it
Because
doesn't
it's
have the
running
big
simultaneously too. Go ahead.
it doesn't have the big players, the big key players. It's just got a normal non-force using I don't know if Omega does yet, but for the most
Yeah.
part, non-force using characters. And what we're gonna see is like I think this is gonna tie in because we're seeing how powerful the Empire is. We know it is. Up until the point of the OG, we know that they're just this massive, massive fascist regime. And I think what this is kind of leading to is we're sitting here wondering like where did the rebellion how did it even start? Like how do you even
Right.
begin to fight something like the Empire? Well, the answer is through huge sacrifices by key players. And I think the Bad Batch is going to be one of those key players because they're kind of seeing this from the inside, whereas people like Luthen from Andor and Cassian and his team are coming at it from the outside. We don't have an inside rebellion, and this is kind of this is what's going to be the inside of the rebellion.
Yeah. Well, the way they've crafted the origin of the rebellion has just been brilliant.
Oh yeah,
It
100.
first started with rebels, because they think they're they don't even know if there's any other cells out there. They think they're just an isolated cell, like doing things for Fulcrum, or whatever. You know what I mean? And then you see Andor, which sparking it in Aldan, the heist in Aldani and all these small things, which obviously is such a
Then you
great
have Saul
call when,
Guerrera. Like
yes,
that's why it's called the Rebel Alliance. They're different.
right.
They're different like
Mm,
sects of groups that have
yeah.
now allied together to take on the greater threat. And I think we're seeing the formulation of all that because all we saw
Mm,
was Luke jumping in an X-wing on Yavin, where the Rebel Alliance was built. We don't know anything
right.
about it. We
Yeah.
we kind of came into it from the outside.
Well, it's interesting to see in like Andor too. It starts and it maybe even Bad Batch where it's obviously there's an empire, but is it that big of a deal? It's just a new government. But
Yeah,
as the shows progress, you get this really ominous, feeling of the empire and of their reach, and like,
right.
there nowhere is safe from the empire. They're going to go to all parts of the galaxy,
Hmm.
to impart their rule, kind of a thing. And I just thought it was so beautiful, even in Andor. Cassian goes back to get Marva, and she's like been so inspired by the heist on Aldani, and he like can't say anything, and
Hmm.
but like those things they're doing are actually sparking a rebellion in everyday people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
I want to talk about the last line that Cody told Crosshair because I just think that was so beautiful. Um, when they were at the Arabesh monument again in front
Hmm.
of the wherever they were stationed, which looked like the old Jedi temple to me. I don't know if you saw that, but
I was curious about that. I don't know if that's the old.
yeah,
If it is, what a cool set piece to bring
I know.
back. You know
Yeah,
what I
it
mean?
looked like the one that Anakin marched up with the 504s,
Yes.
501st.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but anyways, he kind of brought his whole development of that episode to put a bow on it, essentially, and he said, the difference between us and droids is that we have to live with our decisions. And
Hmm.
that was just like him saying, I am not okay with what the Empire is doing. I'm not okay with what you just did.
Mm,
And then
right.
in the next scene, he left. He went AWOL. So he made his choice. He basically told Crosshair, like, here's your life raft. You can come with me if you want to, but this is where I'm going. And that's
Mm,
exactly what he did. And I
yeah.
just think it was not only like chills for great character development, but overall for the story. Like, this is the point of being a good being, or not to be redundant, but being a good living being is to know that your choices and your decisions affect not only you but the people around you. And he finally realized, like, I'm not going to live with this anymore. I have to do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was. I mean, you hit it. That was kind of the whole episode. It was
Hmm.
the storytelling was amazing. The way that Tawny Ames has the droid army who are
Hmm.
following orders exactly from the tactical droid, and Crosshair and Cody are following orders from Rampart exactly until Cody makes the choice. Hey, I actually have a conscience and I live with the things I do, whereas these droids just follow the orders. And
Yep.
so he's making a distinction from him, and the droids. And yeah, you're right. That was, I don't know. And you can see Crosshair at the end, really reflecting on what Cody's
Yeah.
saying and kind of how even affected he is at the end of the episode when he finds out Cody's not there anymore, right?
Yep.
And he knows, okay, Rampart's either done something to him, like taken him out, and or he has gone AWOL, but he can't stay here anymore and do the things that they're asking us to do.
Hmm.
And and Rampart throws that jab at him like, hey, every clone that comes in contact with you either dies or goes missing.
Yep.
Just putting another jab in there, you know.
Just dumping that fuel all over that fire.
Yeah, and so, but you can see, yeah, you're right. Beautiful shot with Crosshair putting on his helmet, walking out of Rampart's office, and I like the way they left it there because as soon as the episode's over, my mind is just racing about, man, what is going through his head? Like, what is he
Yeah.
plotting next?
Is he about to turn on them, or is he going to find Cody immediately to take him down? Like,
Right,
what's he
right.
thinking?
Yeah, so, man, they just left it on a really good note. I am so pumped to see what happens next.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really good. But Oh, there was one other thing. I don't know if you want to touch on it from the episode before we move on. Tony Ames kind of makes a reference to Dooku, and
Yeah.
I know you're like a fan of that. What was kind of the tone of what she was trying to say with that?
I think it was kind of illustrating how the Empire has gotten out of control. That nobody imagined what this would turn into when Palpatine took over. As they granted him emergency powers, and then he basically just
Right.
became a dictator after that.
Freaking Jar Jar.
Yeah, Darth Jar Jar. But I think it was like, and we used the clip in that breakdown of Dooku at the mercy of
He's
Anakin.
up there now. Yep.
Yeah, there he is. Man, this is great timing. Like, as wise and as against the grain as Dooku was, I think he was still self-fulfilling. So he sided with Palpatine because he saw, as we saw in Tales of the Jedi, that the Jedi are, in a sense, corrupt. They've lost their way.
Yeah.
They're too aligned with the Republic, and they've become political. They don't know where their place is in the galaxy anymore. And I think Dooku wanted a way out of there. He wanted a way to still have power, and he saw Palpatine as a means to that. But he never realized the capacity at which Palpatine was planning to do things. And it wasn't until it was too late, as that clip shows right there, when Palpatine said, "Kill him." It's like
Right.
all of a sudden he's like, okay, wow, I'm completely expendable to this guy. This is not what I was told was going to happen. But it was too late. By that time,
Yeah.
it was just too late. And that was kind of what Tawny Ames was trying to get through, is like, even Dooku saw that something was coming, but he did not know to the degree that it was actually coming.
Right. Well, yeah, Dooku's such
Beautiful
an interesting.
storytelling. What a
Yeah,
great way to kind of wrap up Dooku.
he's such a interesting character because you're right. He's like half in, half out. Like he's like halfway, comes from the light side, but he's into the world of the dark side, and so he's getting pulled both directions. Like they talked about his war chest in the first couple. You know, he's obviously stolen from his people, and he is accumulating wealth and power, but at the same time, he's like, the Emperor is even going too far. You know, I see what the Empire is become. You know, what the Republic has turned into the Empire. You know, so he has a shred of conscience in there somewhere. You know, which obviously being the perfect master for, you know, Qui-Gon. You know, although Qui-Gon leans more to the obviously light side, he still has that view of, you know, the Jedi were going down the wrong path. You know, he could see it.
I think they were definitely very similar. I think it's just Dooku's experiences were different that led him down that. And Tales of the Jedi did a very, very good job showing that,
Yeah.
of how disillusioned he became. And I think Qui-Gon dying really affected him. And he was just kind of like, this is my only choice. I'm this far in. We're going to go with it. But in the end, of course, he was regretful and realized his grave flaw and how much it cost him and the rest of the galaxy going forward. And I'm glad Dooku has had such a great development outside of episode 2.
Yeah, they give him a good send off, like for sure,
Yeah.
like rounding out his character. Yeah, it's been good. Well, yeah, we'll kind of wrap up Bad Batch there, guys. If you had questions about the episode, drop them in chat, or you know, leave a comment after the live show. And man, we'd like to talk about Bad Batch more. You know, tons of cool things to speculate about. But let's go ahead and switch over to the next thing we're gonna do, which is some speculation about Ahsoka and Luke. All right, here we go. All right, Scott, you hit me up this week.
I
I
did.
don't know if you texted me or if we did Discord or whatever it was.
It was
We
one of our
were-
late night romantic conversations that we had.
Yeah, you know, just bedtime, you know, chats. And
Yeah, pillow talk.
you ran this by me. You know, you were kind of, I don't know if you were upset. Not upset is the wrong word, but just kind of like, how is this possible? You went back to the Book of Boba Fett, right? The episode where Ahsoka and Luke are interacting. Luke's, you know, starting to build his kind of training
New
facility in the
Jedi Order, essentially.
yeah
Trying
the
to
new
bring
Jedi
it back.
Order, and Ahsoka refers to him as Master throughout the whole when she's talking to Din Djarin, like, Grogu will be trained by Master Luke. You know what I mean? All
Yes.
this kind of stuff. And so I think, tell me if I'm wrong, you were just kind of like, okay, when has Luke become a master, and why is Ahsoka giving him so much reverence when Ahsoka is obviously well, I guess she's not a Jedi anymore, so we have to say that, but she is obviously way more versed in the Force than Luke,
Yeah.
and she's trained for way longer. And so why is she giving him so much reverence? So anyway, I'll let you take it away. I thought it was fascinating when I heard it. I hadn't thought about it.
Well, I mentioned last time, I think they're going for a remake of the OT. I really do think that's where it's headed, as controversial as that might be. I want to see it happen. I really do. If it's done correctly, I could be eating these words a few years from now, that's for sure. But as I said, my main point of how I arrived at this is, like, there's so much story going on now that the OT is starting to kind of look weak on its own, as far as all these characters and what's been happening in the background. So I just got to thinking, like, here's Luke. He takes on, after training with Obi-Wan for like what, 2 days, if he even trained that, however long to get to the Death Star, right? I don't know if he had any training on Tatooine before that, because he kind of seemed to know old Ben, but
Well, Obi-Wan
I
gives him
doubt
the
it.
lightsaber, and he almost like cuts his hand
He
off like
points he
right
points at
away.
his face.
You're looking down the barrel of a
I
gun,
know,
like,
I
what are you
know.
doing?
And then he
Anyway,
had
sorry.
what, maybe a week training with Yoda,
Yeah,
and
not
then all of a
long.
sudden, not long, and then he goes to fight Vader on Bespin. Obviously, he loses.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to Return of the Jedi, and he comes in to first Jabba's palace almost like he's a new man. So that got the wheels spinning there, first of all. But then you go further down, and he fights Vader and wins. And then he actually lives to resisting the Emperor. So I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, did something happen before there? Is that a place to throw it in? Or the most obvious question is, how did he acquire this kind of training and knowledge to take on the two most powerful Force users who have ever lived?
Right. So
And
yeah, I'll just jump in. So obviously the theories would either be, well, first of all, let me address your point about the original OT. I think you're right. As more characters are introduced along the same timeline that weren't in the original OT, there's just so many questions about where these characters were and what they were doing during
yeah,
this timeline. And that comes to Luke, right? So in between Return and Jedi, or Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, obviously Luke has some incredible progression. And so I think the
yeah,
thought maybe before was that maybe he returned to Yoda, right?
right.
And got some more training. But I think the other option, which I want to be true, is that he and Ahsoka meet up. And Ahsoka, even, in a way, because it would just fit so beautifully together, right? Ahsoka is the Padawan of Anakin, and then Luke becomes, in a sense, the Padawan of Ahsoka, right? She passes all the
Yes.
knowledge of Anakin onto his son.
Because
You know
Ahsoka's
what I
been
mean?
trained by arguably some of the best Jedi who ever lived.
And she grew up in the temple, right? She's like the very
Yep.
last remnant of, the Jedi who were brought up in the temple, all of that.
Yeah.
And so, yes, she could teach him the ways of, hey, you're going to start a Jedi Academy. This is how you do it. This is how you train a youngling. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, this is how it's done, and
I
all
guess
of that stuff.
my real question going into that was, in Book of Boba Fett, we see Ahsoka as almost like the sidekick to Luke, right? Like, she's almost, at least, if not on equal footing, she seems to kind of be like his second in command, so to speak. And I'm just wondering, like, this girl has been through so much. She's trained under some amazing tutelage. She was a
Fought Vader,
Padawan to
defeated
Anakin.
Maul.
I know, and all of a sudden it's like Luke's this great wise master who really hasn't experienced that much in comparison. So
Right.
how is this panning out? Like, it's just a little confusing to me. And
Yeah.
granted, Ahsoka is a well-intentioned character. She's kind, she's passionate. So I think if from a point of respect, like this is my master's son, like she has a great respect for him already. But as
Yeah.
far as like when it comes to power, quote unquote power and
Mm-hmm.
experience and capability, I almost am like Ahsoka's should be way stronger than Luke at this point in time.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's kind of strange, and I would love to see that dynamic play out. Really, that how cool would that be?
Yeah. Here's what I want to see. I mean, I know you're wanting the original OT to be remade, and you could have interactions with Ahsoka and Luke. But
Hmm.
if they keep the original OT, I would like to see kind of like how they did with Rogue One, just a standalone movie set in between Empire and Return.
Hmm.
That is a Ahsoka and Luke movie
Yep.
that just goes through their meeting, their maybe training Luke, maybe some whatever the thing they have to
Yoda,
fight
Ahsoka,
is.
and Luke on Dagobah.
Yes. Yeah, that would be incredible. And so it would make sense that, hey, Luke is being trained by Ahsoka and Yoda. Like, obviously, he's going to be a super powerful Jedi if
That
he
could tie
takes to the
into
training.
there is another line, like
Yeah.
Yoda could be alluding. I think they were alluding to Leia in the first one, honestly,
Yeah, of course.
but it could carry that
Obviously,
meaning
be
too for
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka. Hmm.
And, also in Mandalorian, right? Whenever Din Djarin's like, hey, will you train Grogu? She already knows there's someone else out there because she sends him to Tython, right? To do
Yeah.
the ritual, you
It's
know.
clear that Luke and her have met before. Like they have a relationship to some degree.
Yes, yes. And I think, to me, I'm just going to say this, and I'm sure people feel a lot of different ways. The Luke and Ahsoka, if there's a movie, if there's a meeting, this is the absolute number one piece of Star Wars content that I ever want to see.
I agree.
Ahsoka
I
and
really
Luke
do.
are my absolute favorite characters.
Hmm.
Ever since Clone Wars, just Ahsoka, just the way she was trained under Anakin, her whole story arc, from Snips all the way up to, being
Fulcrum.
revered. Yeah,
And
is
being able to
and
take on Vader. Like it's
100%. What a
yeah.
story arc. What character development. And so I want to
Mhm.
see her character development play out with Luke the same way hers did, right? Like we
Yeah.
don't question his development. We just want to see. I would love to see this movie be made, or however they want to do it, man. I don't know
Yeah.
about you, but
And I don't disagree that Luke is the most powerful Jedi after this going forward. I know the
right.
EU did a phenomenal job working him into that over
Mm-hmm.
several books. And that's why I think it's still kind of in the hive mind that, yeah, Luke's the most powerful now. But
Mm,
the thing about Ahsoka and Luke is they both don't have any kind of problem with pride. They are both selfless. They
mm-hmm.
are both disciplined, and I think that as a duo to see that play out on screen, of it's like
Mm-hmm.
Luke is the incarnation of what Anakin should have been, in my opinion.
Mm, mm,
And now Luke has everything that he needs for Ahsoka to tell him about his father, to show him what he learned, and I don't know,
yeah.
it would be such a moving piece of writing. Just to see that play out on screen would just be phenomenal, especially since Mark Hamill's still alive and more than willing to do this. Like,
Yeah.
oh man, would it just be seeing them together in the Book of Boba Fett episode was just emotional
Yeah.
for me. It
Yeah.
really was.
100%. Yeah, I'm hoping they explore this, man. It just, like I said, I
Yeah.
know not everyone's probably watched the Clone Wars. There's a lot of casual Star Wars fans who are just like watching movies, but man, I think people are just missing out if they don't know what's going on with Ahsoka, and Luke. And this would be just a great way to showcase the kind of the reset of the Jedi Order, right? Like the Jedi, they failed. They were corrupt under Yoda, but then Ahsoka and Yoda can, just reset everything with Luke. Because, like you're saying, They're both selfless. It's almost, but they're not that afraid of a attachment in a way. So they're almost like
Yeah.
what the Jedi should have been. You know what I mean? They show love with, I don't know, as a
Which
part
is
of their.
weird because he wouldn't train Grogu if he didn't let go of Din, which
Yeah,
is odd
yeah,
to me. Like,
that's
and
true.
maybe we'll see that fleshed out later on.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's going.
Yep. Anyway, man,
Yeah,
I'm pumped for this. I hope it happens. But
yeah.
all right, man. The last thing I think we're gonna touch on today, let me swap over, is some Rogue One discussion. So you hit me up that you had rewatched it with
So
your
good,
daughters this week,
so
and
good.
Rogue One has never been more relevant with Andor
Right,
being front and center since it leads straight into it kind of
right.
a thing. But yeah, man, what were your thoughts when you kind of watched it with your kids this week and everything?
Oh, well, I can say first and foremost, you definitely see it through a new lens after watching Andor.
Yeah.
Like Cassian's character, just great. It's cool how there's a lot of parallels between the dialogue. Every character in that is special and unique in some way. I realized too while watching it again that this is one of the first times we've seen a force sensitive character that's not actually a trained Jedi. So I thought that was an awesome
Hmm.
inclusion to have. Like Chirrut, clearly he
Mm-hmm.
was force sensitive. He had just never been
Yes.
trained.
Yes.
So we got to see that in action.
Or he just
The
had
bond,
really good hearing.
he was like Daredevil
Right.
essentially.
His
Yeah,
heightened senses. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, is force sensitive.
yeah, and to kind of see knowing Saw's background fleshed out, even in Jedi Fallen Order, like to
Mm.
see him finally, like when he perished in the movie, and he
Well, to
says,
see how
I'm
chill he is in Andor too, like he's still intense, but in
yeah,
Andor, like in Rogue One, he was like level 10,
yeah.
paranoia and
Well,
stuff.
I think at this point he had finally seen that either the rebellion was going to flourish or it was going to be crushed immediately.
Mm.
And that's when he said when he died, he was like, I'm tired of running. And so he
Mm-hmm.
finally just accepted that he had done all that he could and that how it turned out is how it was going to turn out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jin, fantastic character. Just, I mean, being the daughter of the person who crafted the Death Star, who was the architect behind it. Seeing that, we're seeing some of that Bad Batch type behavior of people in the Empire having that change of heart, that self reflection. Like at that
Mm.
point, he saw what the Empire was going to do. They were going to rule this galaxy with a super weapon that could destroy planets. And he was like, the only thing I can do is to make sure there's a way that people can destroy it. And
Speaking of the
so,
saboteur role, yeah,
yeah, yep.
fighting from within. Like we'll see if Crosshair does that in Bad Batch, but yes,
And
totally.
just like the self-sacrifice of all these characters. And I mean, the biggest thing from a artistic storytelling perspective is every main character was killed off. Like we don't see that. They were all heroes that all died.
Mm.
And of course the Vader scene. I mean, one of the coolest things we've seen with Vader.
Yeah. Well, and we see the completion of the Cassian story arc, right?
Yeah.
We see him starting from someone who wants to make a real difference in Andor, kind of naive to the Empire, maybe never soft, but not as hard as you see him in Rogue One. He is like super hardened
He's
and
basically become Luthen. That's like that's his
in a
role.
sense, but
Yeah.
you see him go all the way to that end and then get brought back, at the end. So the completion of his story arc is just amazing now that we're getting the origin, you know, of his character. So yeah, it's just so relevant right now. Me and my
Yeah.
wife just finished watching the first season of Andor, or I watched it. She just watched it. I'd watched it obviously, but I
Yeah.
watched it again with her, and now that's next on our list is Rogue One. Like we
Oh yeah.
totally have to follow it up.
You're
Just
gonna love
to
it again,
yeah.
man. And I
What
think
it?
what happens, and I hope to see in season 2, is they found such a perfect balance of storytelling and character development and character cameos. Like Andor was
Mm,
amazing without one single major player.
right.
But Rogue One obviously used Vader, but it was in a way that it wasn't saturated. It made it feel so much more impactful. It kind of sends shivers down your spine. Like I love the scene where Krennic talks to Vader, and he's
Mm,
asking for like a promotion, and you see him start choking, and then Vader just like he's like try not to
yeah.
choke on your aspirations
On
or something.
aspirations. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it was just like it was short, but man, was it impactful to the story. And I think that is great storytelling tools. And I have a feeling in Andor season 2, like we'll see Palpatine in the Senate, we'll see
Mm,
maybe glimpses of Vader, and it's like watching from afar. I don't know, it's such a weird, chilling experience as a viewer.
yeah. And remind me again, what's the ISB agent's name? What's her name? Uh,
Oh man,
man, I love her character. I don't know
I
why
do
I'm
too.
going blank right now.
I do too.
Um,
Dang it.
but
Yeah, I don't know what
I'm
it's.
really excited to see where her character goes in relation to the rebellion and leading up to Rogue One. You know, like how the cat and mouse game between her and Luthen,
Yeah.
kind of a thing, and Cassian. I think is going to be awesome to watch.
I think we'll see her. I think she's going to get promoted, and I bet you we'll see her having like meetings with Palpatine.
Dude, she's such a good actor. It's like insane.
Yeah.
Like,
And to see Tarkin again. I hope we see Tarkin
yeah,
was one of the best parts of Rogue One. I
yeah,
forgot he was in that. And I
yeah,
saw him, although the CGI at the time was a
yeah,
little iffy, it was still cool. Like
yeah.
really cool to see that. Because what a
Um,
great character for such a
and
tiny amount
Leia
of
wasn't
screen time.
Leia CGI in that one too,
At the
or no?
very end, yeah, she
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Hmm.
Um, what did so I know you watched it with your daughter. What did you watch it with all of your daughters or just one?
Yeah, yeah, I watched it with all of them.
What did they think about Rogue One? I don't know.
I mean, they're 8 and the twins are 7, so I think
So
from
it's more of
a
an excuse just for you to watch it again.
yeah, they
Okay.
like it. They like the action. They don't understand the depth behind
Yeah,
it and the
yeah,
connection to the
yeah.
story. I don't think they fully grasp where we're at in the timeline. They're just like, "Oh, it's
Mm,
Darth Vader, awesome."
yeah.
So, but
My
they
twins
love
still
Ahsoka.
say,
They love Ahsoka,
"Oh,
man.
good,
Like
good."
they, yeah, one of them wants to be her for Halloween. Like it's
Mm,
cool to see your
yeah,
kids really embrace that and have
yeah.
somebody to look up to like Ahsoka.
Mm. Yeah, my kids are half and half. Some they like some days will say we don't want to watch Star Wars. I think just to make me mad, like pretend like they don't like it, just to
Yeah.
push my buttons. And then like the other day, I put up, I forget which it was like it's called like Roger Roger, like it's like an animated with one of the old droids that's been repurposed, and he like talks about his missions with all the characters, and they love that. They'll like watch that over and over. So, but I haven't got into the movies with them yet. So, hopefully soon we'll get it going with
Yeah.
the kids, and we'll have something we can share. Because I grew up watching this stuff with my dad, and that was like a cool thing to share,
Yeah.
you know, or whatever.
Oh,
So,
it's wonderful being able to experience something that you love with your kids and then have them kind of get wrapped up in that same mystical and magical just experience we had as kids and how fun it was.
yep, totally. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. We're gonna watch it maybe this week or next week, just to catch back up on Rogue One. Get ready for. I mean, I know Andor season 2 is probably still a ways off, but what a year for
Yeah.
Star Wars, man! I'm
Oh,
excited.
it's about to pop off. It really is.
100%. And we have lots of videos to do because of that.
Yeah.
So that's gonna
It's
be
good for
cool.
us.
Yeah, for sure. So I don't know, man. That was cool. I'm man. I like this live stream format we're doing.
I do too. Just need some more viewers.
No, I'm actually grateful. Thanks everybody who
I am
stopped
too.
by today. I know we had people in and out all day. You know, feel free to comment. When you guys drop in
Yeah.
and ask questions. Maybe if we can start getting some questions rolling in, we'll do like a Q&A section at the end of every live stream or something
Yeah, that would be fun.
going forward. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
I
gonna
don't
be
know,
a
man.
slow build, but we'll get there. I think more and more people will tune in and hopefully we can start having some really big, good discussions.
Yeah, man. Well, we do this just because we love Star Wars. This is like our creative thing to do.
I think the kicker here is that whether or not we're live streaming, we're gonna have these conversations about it. So we might as well have it where other people can see it too. We're not just like two
Yeah.
old nerds talking to each
My
other.
wife
About
is like, "Who are you texting? What are you talking about?" I'm like,
it. Same.
"Star Wars." He's like, "What? What is
I
that
know.
that cool about Star Wars? Like, you don't understand."
You just
It's
don't get
okay.
it.
Yeah.
Just stand it.
But yeah. Anyway, man, thank you everyone for joining today. Man, we had a lot of fun. Again, check out our Bad Batch episode 3 breakdown we just did. It's super good. Like I said, Scott's just crushing those. Super good writing and delivery on those episodes. We're really proud of that. And then check out our other channel, our regular BadCuzDad channel, where we talk about gaming. We do gameplay. I stream Star Wars: The Old Republic. So if you're into that game, if you're a Star Wars fan, a lot on that channel. Scott's probably going to be streaming Jedi Survivor when it drops, some Hogwarts Legacy. And we just do general gaming philosophy videos and the psychology behind games and MMOs. So some cool stuff that if you're into gaming, hopefully you guys can check that out. Give us a follow over there. Other than that, man, I think it's it.
We have decades of experience in gaming, so
Obviously,
if you
look
want,
at
if you want
us.
some boomer takes, you can watch that.
Yeah, lots of experience and little hair to go along with it.
Little hair, yeah.
But anyway, man, thanks everybody. We will catch you guys in the next one.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.